Hey guys, how's it going? This is Sebastian, coordinator of Mentoring Arts Programming with Wayside Youth and Family. We are together once again in the home studio in Shirley. I am running our virtual studio program today. Today we're going to be working with collage, specifically the artwork of R. Crum and Bill Elder. We'll talk a lot about those guys in the process. I wanted to tell you a little bit about my program. As I said, I'm the coordinator of Mentoring Arts Programming for Wayside, and Wayside Youth and Family is a human service agency out of Framingham. They work with young adults to help them in crisis and transition. They do a lot of important work, and if anybody out there needs anything, please check those guys out. My work is about sort of an outreach effort in bringing arts programming to the young adults of Central Mass. I have about 97 towns that I'm trying to bring our programming to. This has been a really great tool to reach out to significantly more young adults than I've been able to reach out to physically. We've been doing this now. I think this is at least 23 or 24 live streams that I've done here on Facebook. We have a significant presence on Instagram, and beginning the process of creating more social media accounts to run this program on. I have all of our videos on YouTube, and we'll start having YouTube live streams. Possibly tomorrow, but as soon as I possibly can. If I am going to be doing them, they'll also be advertised here on Facebook. Please come by and check them out. All we're doing is live art creation demo in the effort to to inspire folks out there to do some artwork of their own. Can't really send out the collage stuff. In fact, each week I feel like I can't have a lot of you doing the artwork with me because I'm using all different types of media. If anybody is interested in getting some of this media that I'm using, please reach out. There's a little bit of money in the budget to help out young adults who are trying to be a part of the program. In fact, let's talk about my program, which is that my program exists as a partnership with the Department of Mental Health. These guys are helping to support me to build a studio in the basement of Tempo Young Adult Resource Center in Framingham. When we can be, we're there Wednesdays and Fridays from 10:30 to 3. We invite anyone who's interested to please come by and check that out. It is ages 16 to 24. And we'd love to see it. The rest of my time I spend in the community, going on site to work with young adults in every type of setting, any type of setting really that's available to us. So anyway, today we're going to work on some collage. And there's a couple of things I wanted to tell you guys about collage. Like all of this stuff behind me here are collages that I've done over the last year. I have about 72 collages that I've done. I was creating them for the purpose of helping to explain a comic art and comics to young adults that were less than interested. So I'm a comic book artist. I'm a huge comic book fan, and so I want young adults who are doing artwork with me to see that stuff. I feel like it's incredibly important pop artwork. So getting folks to open a book or getting folks to be a part of this has been a little bit of a struggle. So I decided if I could show you an entire piece of artwork with no words, would you take a look at it? And universally they said yeah, and I was able to sort of hook them. I wanted to show you guys a ridiculously distant shot of one of the larger collages that we've been making. This one is from the artwork from Paul Pope. In his version of Adam Strange, Adam Strange's adventures, in a reimagining of Adam Strange for a newspaper style comic that was called Sunday Funnies. I had a problem with some of my comics that they got damaged in a flood. So I decided to try to, like, I can't throw them away. I'm a comic book collector, so I decided I would try to reuse them in some way. So some survive better than others. Here's one that lost the whole cover to the flood. But everything happens for a reason, right? So those came out, and these collages came from them. So that's kind of the deal. So first thing we're going to talk about is what we use for the project. Like what we're going to need. You know what I mean? All right. So let's switch over to here. So the first thing we're going to use, obviously we're going to use some X-Actos. I love the X-Acto company. But I don't love their handles to the X-Actos. I've been using X-Actos easily for 20 years. And I think they're fantastic. The only problem is that my hand gets incredibly sore. To use them for a quick trim, like they do the job. But if you are interested in handling them for the long term, collages, for example, that Adam Strange I just showed you is 18 by 24 at more than 200 pieces. So you're basically cutting for a really significant amount of time, and this finger goes bad on you. So there are many holders and stuff, and you can try those, but I find Fiskars, which is a company that I use, their mat cutter, really high quality product, although being very inexpensive. So the first thing we want to do when we're doing any collage, even if you haven't picked up your razor in a long time and are sure you didn't use it last time, is you want to trade the blade out. This particular one I just used for a project cutting cardboard. You want to be really careful in what you do with your razors. Of course, they're sharp as heck. Here I have an absolutely massive box of blades. This is a box of 100 blades. These are no name. Basically, don't buy X-Acto blades. They just cost too much money. This was, I don't even know, maybe like $10 for 100 blades. That was an extremely good deal. Now be careful with them. They're in this really cool oil paper, which helps keep them a little bit lubricated. Try to get just one and watch your fingers, as I've been saying. All right. So like I said, I use those. Gonna switch the blades on both of these tools that I'm using here. Whoops. Try to hold it together. This particular tool, you have, X-Actos. In fact, I mean this one too. You can swivel it to however you want, but you want to make sure your blade is square to your handle, obviously. And to do that, you basically have to hold the front and twist. Hold where the blade is, and give it a good twist so you can get it good and tight. So the other one that we're using is this one. Now this one is a type of mat knife that I have never used before. This one's really, really cool. When I saw it, I said, oh, I got to get that thing, even though I had no idea what it does. But to have it shaped like this is just really interesting, And one of the things that you learn using this one is that it does hurt your fingers really bad after a while, and to have another way to do it seemed like it would be really, cool. So this one goes under your finger. Your finger goes through like this. So now you're holding the knife, but instead of the tip of your finger doing pressure, it's really like all of your finger. And then you can kind of drag low. The way that I do it is I basically like keep the knife blade pretty low in my hand so that I can get a smooth line. It also helps being able to drag your fingers to create a line. When you're working like this with the other X-Acto, you can drag one finger, but this one's pretty cool to be able to drag, all your fingers and get some stability. One of the things about collage, is that you have to be pretty good at cutting. I've done all these collages. I'm getting better all the time, but cutting is something, I don't know. I haven't gotten a lot better. I think that I just get maybe happier with what's kind of happening, So whoa, look at that. There we go. So we're going to use both of these guys. This one, replaces very much the same way. Same story. Make sure you throw your blade away. I am probably the king of of pushing something aside and figuring out, put it away or throw it away later, and then having it stick in my hand at some point in the near future. So the same thing with this, make sure it's oriented on your finger so that you can remember which way to push it in. This one's a little easier because it actually only has one slot. Make sure it's unscrewed pretty good so that you have enough room to put your blade in. And of course, be careful. You can't really push a lot because it's a razor. Oh, some days you cannot get it in. Oh. Alright, hold on 1 second. Dropped it in the trash. There we go. Alright, and remember we want to orient this guy so that he is pointing the way you want to work. Alright. As long as you got it oriented just like this so that you can work with it. You know what I mean? You can always adjust it a little if you need to, but you don't want it to wobble because, that's one of the important parts of the tool, So if you feel like it's not square enough, unscrew, get it, adjust it where you want, and then just hold the blade while you crank this guy down. Right? So there you go. So we are going to continue on. Just grab one piece really quick, and we're going to talk about how we want the work to be presented. You know what I mean? I think it's really important to present all of your artwork as though it's the best thing you've ever done. You should always think the work you're doing is the best thing you've ever done because you're the best person to look at your artwork. Now, between all you guys, don't judge me, but everything I do for artwork I think of as being good. Like if you sat down and created this thing and put your effort into it, it's good. Like that's all there is to it. And so, which is totally cool. Like that's what it should be about. Being able to do fun stuff, and enjoying what you're doing. How somebody else, looks at it, it really doesn't matter that much. Now, I, myself personally, am very interested in what my artwork looks like. One time my wife said to me, assume everything you're going to create is good. Because that means you'll work on better paper, better surfaces. You'll take the entire piece seriously as opposed to, kind of screwing around. And it isn't that I don't sketch things because I sketch practically everything, even collages occasionally. But, you have a chance to create whatever you want. So make it as cool as it'll look to you. You know what I mean? Like you want to present it good to you, and that's the deal. So what we're working on today is Artist Panel by Ampersand. I love these guys. They make really, really great products. They're very inexpensive. This guy here is, I think, under $2. And it's really great. We're going to open her up here. Take a look at it. So this is what this guy looks like. If you feel it, it feels almost like a Formica tabletop. I really enjoy the way it looks. I think that it's really really cool. When I was a kid, I often got in trouble for drawing on my parents' Formica table. Mostly everything came off until I discovered the magic of Sharpie. Now we no longer have that table. Anyway, this is a baked ceramic material with gesso mixed into it. It creates a really hard surface, and then it is applied onto a sheet of masonite, which I believe is from sustainable sources and all that kind of stuff. So for under $2, a really exceptional deal. So that's what we're gonna work with that, and then we're gonna take that and we're gonna put it inside of this frame. Now this is a custom-made frame made by Todd Tuber on Etsy. I will put his link in the comments because unfortunately at this moment I can't remember what it is. So we're going to take this guy that he made. This is out of reclaimed wood. I'm not sure exactly where he got the wood from, but it's beautiful. It has a really great grain to it. And honestly, it's the beautiful thing, the great thing of being a part of the reusing of our natural resources for me is really cool. And also this one here is about $10. So custom made floating frame for $10 is great. Now I think I bought 10 from him recently, and I've probably bought 10 leading up to here. So for 20 of them, I think I paid under $250. Like just a great guy, really accessible, willing to talk about anything, and obviously willing to do some interesting work. So we take this frame, which I'm going to paint, pre-paint for the purpose of hanging it. That's how I do it. This guy here is a 4x4. So I use a double-sided tape that I found somewhere. Oops. And let's see if I can find the name on it. It might be Fiskars too. I can't remember the name, but it is just a double-sided tape dispenser. You can run it straight. It peels out a double-sided strip of tape. You just rock that around the inside and tape it to it. This is, so this is quick, gets it up right away. And then the other thing about that's really awesome is that it's removable. It's tape, double stick tape. So it's not going to like tear up the back of this board. Also, masonite is super tough. It's not like we're trying to tape a piece of cardboard in there. Like this is tough stuff. So when you decide you don't want it, you need to unframe it for some reason. For example, you can't scan the artwork while it's in the frame. So if your picture winds up not looking that good, you pull it off. I mentioned this. You probably saw my link in the description of the video. All of the collages that I've created using this method are on Instagram at Toast23, Toast20 and the number 3. At Toast23. So try to check that out if you want. And enough talking, let's kind of get into it. So we're going to paint both of these things black, but I'm not going to do the frame yet, because I usually don't work on the frame until I've got the collage pretty well underway. So I use several different tools in the process of creating the collage. We're going to talk about those. Obviously, there's the blades that we already talked about. Another tool that I use is this one right here. This is a vinyl puller. This is for cleaning stencils on a sheet of vinyl, that have been through the vinyl cutter, and you peel your pieces you're not going to use. Pretty cool though. It's just a piece of a tube, like a dowel with a tack nailed into it, but extremely convenient to move artwork around. I also use any number of other tools. For example, my old friend, the paper spatula. Most people don't even know what a paper spatula is, but that's what it is. This gives us two ends. This is sort of like a slide end, and this is a pickup end. One of the things about collage that's significant is we're basically stacking paper on top of itself. So you wind up flipping and moving a lot of things. So that's the deal with the paper spatula and the tack. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to black this board right now. Now that we want to black the board so that it's dry in time for the next thing that we want to use it for. So I've got to just make sure they're both open. Same one, ampersand 4x4. I believe I have 4 boards and 4 frames. So I kind of prepare my surfaces a little different, than some other people. I've tried spraying them, I've tried rolling them or brushing them. But I just haven't liked any of those. So I did a bunch of collages on a white background, and I don't like that as much either. This gives us a ground we can work on. What I use for glue is gel medium, and gel medium is paint minus the pigment. And so paint likes paint, like paint sticks to paint. So it's better to have something on there. Like this surface actually feels like it, it's, I'm sure, receptive to paint, but it feels as though it's, it's something different because it's ceramic, So I like the coating it with paint so it'll stick a little bit better, and to give you a ground. Another thing is when you're collaging and, you put a piece down that you think is totally going to work and there's gaps around, right? Then you find yourself with, you can see where you've missed really well by having this, this surface, this area behind it. So I basically hook them both up with black. Now we want to color them with black. Just need to grab my tape here. Right. So we're using typical regular painter's tape. Very, very inexpensive. Totally does the job. Like, doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Don't have to use some. As soon as a tape says art on it, it costs you around twice as much money. I don't know why that is, but it definitely does. So all I do is take a roll of tape. Take a roll of piece off of the tape. Stick 2 in the back. All we want these is to not move around while we are. In my head, it's gessoing them, but it's sort of like coating them, or while we're painting them. Same with this guy. Collage I find to be one of the funnest art forms for me because I spend a lot of time drawing. If you've watched the last 6 live streams were about like doing a significant painting on leather, and I love doing that work. I find it to be really, really fun and interesting. But collage, on the other hand, is like a fan thing. It's like ode to the artist that created this work, because obviously I am channeling artists that I like. Even to start, the artwork comes from comics I purchased that were damaged. So it's all work that I like, that's influenced my life, and so it winds up sort of starting to create an arc of the work I've been interested in my life. So that's kind of fun. The great thing about being an artist is you can control your viewer and you can control your content, and so this is a really, really great thing. I think all of us as humans are a little disempowered by the world around us, by the stuff we have to deal with, you know what I mean? And so art gives us a chance to, to control everything involved and making it exactly what we want it to be. This is super powerful, especially for young adults. Like we're trying to figure out what kind of adult we're going to be, and knowing that having a place that you can go to control things, I feel like helps me feel more in control the rest of my life. So anyway, we're going to get into doing this right now. All I do for this part is I'm using golden. Let me show you one that isn't totally dirty. I'm using golden fluid acrylics, high flow acrylics. These guys work, pretty well. I took the normal caps off, which is like a pour cap, and I replaced them with these guys. This one is like a bingo dauber, really large, surface. Sometimes they get a little bit wet, so you got to get them going again. There you go. So all I did was start that on a piece of cardboard, on a piece of paper. And now we're good to go. So like I said, I use this guy. And all I do to prepare my surfaces is just coat them in black. My dog has just realized that I'm up here, and she's outside the door saying, "Why aren't you with me?" I have English bulldogs, and they are big on personality, but also extremely big on stubbornness. They're like, "I don't want you to go up there. I want you to be with me." So we don't have to do multiple coats or anything because, of course, we're going to work directly over this. All this is doing is giving us something to glue to and something to be able to see the gaps in the artwork as we apply it. Now these guys are going to take obviously a little bit to dry. They take maybe about half an hour or a little bit less. All right. So these daubers work awesome. The 2-packs at Blick are I think like maybe $5 or $6. If you don't have this size fluid acrylics, doesn't work quite as well. But I would absolutely recommend getting them. This is the other cap I wanted to tell you guys about. So this is what they come with. This is some new colors that I've gotten. This one's a raw sienna. But they come with that cap on them. And I swapped them over to this one. So this is what they do. I let them dry. If there's any really obnoxious white spots, I go back over it and let it dry again. Because we're only together for a limited time, we can't sit around and wait for paint to dry. That doesn't seem like the best use of our time, right? So what we're gonna do is we're going to begin the collage process. All right, guys. So all we're going to do is just lift this off, leave those taped to that so that we can pick them up when we need them. Yikes. There we go. All right. So here we have the pieces that we're going to use for our first collage, and our first collage is starring a character named Mr. Natural. If anybody out there has ever read any R. Crumb or Zap comics, R. Crumb is a god of of the cartooning scene or the underground comic scene. Zap Comics was invented by Spain Rodriguez, R. Crumb, Robert Williams, and I'm sure a bunch of Keith Giffen, a few other guys, all brilliant guys. Google it, and check it out. Zap Comics. They came out in '68 in San Francisco in the Haight neighborhood. The artwork was super groundbreaking. Earlier, about 10 years earlier, they had passed the law, comics code, super limiting on what artists could do. So these guys created their own comic that they produced, totally underground, intended to be for San Francisco, California area, and it wound up being such great stuff that it wound up sort of transcending their area, and now R. Crumb is universally believed to be a genius. A few of the characters he's invented, I'm sure you guys have heard, possibly you guys have heard of. Fritz the Cat, Mr. Natural. Mr. Natural is the character who is forever immortalized by the let me show you this thing real quick, see if we can get in there. Whoop, there we go. Always walking away. This is Mr. Natural right here. He was on the t-shirt for Keep On Truckin', which is an absolutely awesome comic. There we go, back a little bit more, just a little. This is the slow zoom. All right, guys. So this is the artwork that we're going to work on to create our collage. I will warn everyone out there that when laying the stuff you want to use for a collage out, try to make sure your nose isn't running, you don't have the sniffles, no one behind you opens the door, because the obviously paper blows around a lot, and it's very easy to lose sometimes work and some effort because you cough or because you sneeze or because someone opens the door. So make sure you're in a kind of a cool spot that that you kind of. I don't know that you have to be alone, but I feel like as long as you're conscious of what's happening around you. Put my stuff back where it goes while I close the drawer. All right, so what we're going to start with here is, like I said, we can't sit around and wait for paint to dry. So this is a piece of illustration board that's 4x4 that I've painted black already. It's Canson, our pear board, plain air, board. Really, really awesome. I super like it. I've made a lot of collages on this board that you want to keep light. Especially pieces that are more like typifying a piece of artwork or a part of a comic, as opposed to a collage. For example, this guy right here is going to be a one-page comic just sharing this, really beautiful piece of artwork that our Crumb created with anybody that wants to look at it. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's like that. Sometimes we're just trying to, I'm just trying to represent something in another way to, get kids to kind of look at it. So how I work is the same as we just did. Is I'm going to tape this board down too, because obviously, we don't want it moving around either. Anytime you're working with something, make sure you immobilize it in some way. Even when I'm in a sketchbook, like the binding on one side is holding the page in place, so it's not moving around on you. Have I had sketchbooks on my knees and slip? Yeah. Try not to do it though, because you can make a mess. All right, you don't have to go crazy with the tape on this, or even do 4. I feel like all you need is a few, because if it gets the impression it's to stay in place, it'll stay in place. We're also not beating the heck out of it. Like we're kind of just trying to take it easy on it. Get it a good spot here. This cutting board I'm using has squares in it that overlap, and so this gives me a number of things. Number one would be to keep the artwork straight. Like if it's off a little and I think it's straight, it's going to be crooked in the artwork. Though I mostly work with the corners of the piece, so the chance of screwing it up, And the other reason I use them occasionally is for measuring. This initial time we're just going to collage it sort of freestyle. And once we got it how we want it, you take a picture of it, and then we begin gluing it down. The gluing down is obviously the payoff. When I do a collage, I simply work in all different methods in whatever kind of works. But at the end, more often than not, you wind up starting at the end and working backwards. This allows you to adjust any of the overlaps in any way. Because if you go and jump around overlap wise, wind up putting something where something else was supposed to go. Not as significant with a 4x4 piece that has under 10 trim pieces to go into it, but like the Adam Strange piece, that piece had literally hundreds of pieces laying around, and you say, oh, where's that orangutan picture that I wanted to put here? Or that my photo tells me goes here. That's a problem. And then of course you cough and that artwork is missing, or the dog knocks it over, or any kind of thing can happen. Excuse me. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start working on this guy. Can't tell if my desk is crooked or the camera. There we go. Perfect. All right. If any of you guys have any comments or anything like that, I definitely am interested in hearing what you guys have to say. Anybody loves R. Crumb, let me know. Or anybody doesn't like R. Crumb. He's kind of a polarizing guy. He's really opinionated. His artwork these days would absolutely be considered racist in a lot of ways. But we got to check him out, because he's culturally relevant. It was a time in history, you know. You guys let me know. You totally disagree with that, you know, let me know. So the story that I'm trying to create here is some pieces out of about a four page story. Guys are wearing me out. About a 4 page story about Mr. Natural and kind of what an angry sort of cat he is and an adventure that he was on. I want to reinterpret that into an old guy being mad and a younger guy owes him money, specifically $38.50. So that's what I'm working with, you know. So I want to that's what I want to do. I want to see if we can convert this page into this. So the very first thing that I thought that gave me this idea was this piece here, this BAM piece. He's mad, you know, he's hitting the table, you know. Now, one thing that Crumb does exceptionally well is place his characters in locations. You know, all of us, myself included, guilty of drawing a character in the middle of a page from nowhere. As you start to get older or your sensibility changes, you realize that the best thing to do is place your character in a place because A, you might not have to draw them all if it's in the dark, and B, you have the lighting. Like, you really can't draw any characters without engaging their lighting. You know, it's important, you know. So Crumb was the master of that. Like, his characters were simplistic in their way, but they all existed in a place, and they all were, you know, relevant. Excuse me. So right here, we can see the first problem, which is that gap in the corner. I don't want to stop and kind of worry about it. You know, we want to kind of keep moving on. You see that we're placing the artwork around the piece as flat as we can. These pieces are all here because they're the edges of the pages that I cut this out of. You really want any filler that you're using to have the same paper because otherwise it'll stand out. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you couldn't have that black stay there because it's obviously not the black from the issue. This is my payoff page where he kind of storms off that I was just showing you guys. He seems to be out looking for a guy. Alright, so he decides he's going to go get the guy. And then he goes walking around looking for him. And he finds him. Gives him a good talking to. And he says, hey, lay. Now this guy up here doesn't seem to realize that that Mr. Natural is mad at him. Right? He's just like, oh, cool, it's Mr. Natural. You can really see that in this drawing right here, which is this guy going from being happy to perplexed. What's up, Mr. Natural? And he says, what? What's wrong, buddy? Now, see, I would like this to be way over here so that they don't overlap each other too much to take away from Mr. Natural's face there. But we do want to create some transition here. You know, like we're going from this panel to this one. Now, clearly he's angry there, but our camera's moving in closer to him, and we're getting a chance to see this character here. I can't remember. He had a name. I can't remember what it was. Foot or something like that. Crumb named people, so things, some very interesting names. Now, one of the fun things about collages is seeing unintentional lines continuing. I don't know if you guys can see it, but right here in the middle of Foot, where his finger overlaps with the background, it basically creates like an ongoing line, and then his knee actually fades into the explosion that Mr. Natural is creating there. So now we got to look at, you know, this corner here is definitely, we got to figure something out with that. But we're going to wait a sec because some of the other pieces we have here are also relevant. You know, we have this guy here. this is kind of when he maybe first realizes that Mr. Natural is angry with him. And if that was true, we could place this one here, right? As he's like, hey, what's up, buddy? How's it going? Haven't seen you in a bit. You know, Mr. Natural's out looking for him, right? He finds him. Maybe we should have that one over here. Right. See how you move and everything moves with you. So you gotta kind of, you know, be working carefully. Now this one seems to make sense here. Right? Because he's looking for him, he's mad at him. And we got some space on this middle panel. We said about his hand. Very cool thing. Be able to make that work. So now he's like, hey, what's up, Mr. Natural? And Mr. Natural is not happy with him. So really it comes down to, I believe, using this piece or this one. Both, you know, convey some anger. Mr. Natural's face here is clearly also a little bit not happy with the guy, while here he's obviously yelling at him. And then if we take a little inductive, deductive reasoning, this piece here, which is our keep on trucking piece, want to be able to fit at the end. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's some legs sticking over the wall. This may be the character Foot, who we're starting with here. So we want this piece to be right in there because it's really the end of the story, right? Now the end of the story, we have to transition. We got some of these larger pieces, excuse me, and that we want to use. Here's a little piece of text. Back up a little more. So there's all the pieces that we're working with. Here's a little piece of text where I believe this character says, yeah, what? And he says, where's my $38.50? So maybe this piece goes here, where he says, hey, where's my cash, buddy? Right. Now this one in here kind of maybe could work to help fill some of our space that that is loose, that is still showing through. This is definitely very much like a puzzle, and unfortunately it's a puzzle that doesn't stay together as you work on it. So this right here actually doesn't work out bad because we can see him asking the question, but we're not overlapping the top piece that much, right? So now we can see what's happening and what we have for room. This piece here, obviously, this piece obviously is the payoff. He kicks him. Now if we place this right here, it had filled up the space, but it would leave us this large gap at the top, which isn't great. You know what I mean? Now, if we took this piece and we moved it up along with this kick piece, right? Or even keep this. Sorry, guys. It's stream of consciousness, you guys. Like we're just working. I always feel like when I watch live streams, I always get the impression they have the entire piece of artwork figured out in their head. In full disclosure, I want you guys to know I do not have the full artwork in my head. I'm just creating it as we go, which is, I don't know, part of my method for art creation. You want to kind of discover it. In fact, if anybody's seen my other live streams where we're painting, I think that motivation goes also into my technique, which is that I expose colors and then I hide them, and that's how I work. So apparently that's just in everything that I do. All right. So now we got this where we, kind of where we want it. Now this. Sorry about that, you guys. Apparently ran into some kind of problem here.